In 3, 2.
And welcome to Cabomil News and Community Update. This is Corey Riggs with Claudia Velo. And what day is today, Claudia?
Today is September the 5th. It is Saturday, and we're recording Sunday's show.
That's 6. So you'll be hearing the show on Sunday if you listen to Cabomil. But if you follow us on Facebook Live, you can see the show anytime. It's a great way to see the show. You get bonus material. We spend extra time with our guests. We had a great show last week with Gianmarco Vela, and we spent a lot of extra time with him, and we had a great musical guest who we got an extra song. So you want to go check it out. And today we have a great show, Claudia.
It is. I'm very excited. We have wonderful guests, and we're really going to be talking about things that are very important for our community. Sometimes we forget. We're blinded by the woods, I guess, and we don't see. We're blinded by the trees, and we don't see the whole thing.
We get too into what's the saying? We get too into the woods, and we can't see the whole forest.
We can, exactly.
So we're going to talk about the forest today and the overall what's happening with COVID, our community, and starting with that, we will talk about the news a little bit because a very exciting thing happened last week.
Yes. Indeed, this last week, the whole state moved to level 4. Remember that while Mexico has a traffic light system, alert system that is red, orange, yellow, and green, here in Bajacaliforniasur, the state government has decided to have 2 subdivisions. Orange has level 5 and 4, and then yellow is level 3 and 2. And that is to signal different levels of progress in terms of how we're managing the pandemic. And last week we went over to level 4, which means more businesses can open. And also it means that occupancy can be at 40% rather than 30%. Social distancing limits shrink a little bit more, just a little bit. It was half a square meter per person. But still, we can come a little closer, and I think that's always good.
You can go a little closer.
Yeah, just a little bit closer. And also, churches and type A gyms are allowed to open. So that was all really good news. Everybody was very excited. And then, right after that, of course, the Secretary of Health for Bajacaliforniasur said, we know that the number of cases will increase because at level 4, more people will be going out, movie theaters will be opening, churches, etc. And so we know that there will be more cases, but we're hoping that those cases will remain at the levels that we consider manageable. And especially, they keep focusing on the level of occupancy at hospitals. As long as hospital patients that require to be in hospitals are manageable and we are not overwhelming the health system, the state will continue to move forward. That's why the entire health safety committee continues to ask people to act responsibly, to observe all the measures that we already know what there are by now. You wash your hands, antibacterial gel, face masks, social distancing, the etiquette sneeze, which my arm's too short. I can't do that. The whole, sneeze into your elbow. How do you do that? But so that was the big thing was that. Along with that, it was also announced, of course, that starting Sunday, and this was last Sunday, church services reopened, but they reopened at limited capacity and with the indication that populations at risk, which are people over 50-something or 60-something, small children, people with chronic illnesses should stay away. And that is a big issue because, of course, the people who want to go to church more than anybody are the older people. That's part of their lifestyle. And but again, it's this invitation to still use the online services and to try to avoid that. And I'll tell you about the surfing pasture service as an option for open air services later in the show. But overall, it was good news. There's confusion between the gyms regarding type A. What does that mean? And that means that gyms have to have at least 2,600 square feet of space, 12-foot ceilings, and they have to have proper ventilation and air circulation systems installed. And also, all the equipment needs to be at least 8 feet apart, one piece of equipment from the other. The interesting number there is that there's only 43 gyms that meet those requirements in the entire state. There's 131 gyms registered that have undergone the COEPRIS evaluation, but only 43 meet those requirements. So,
well, it's very difficult for the gym owners. I know it's been very hard for them. I know Modu's gym just opened up because I've been there, and there's some other ones, but other ones that are not able to open. Hopefully those will be open soon. I know there's a lot of outdoor options for working out, which is important. We've talked about this before. It's also good, instead of just figuring out how to avoid the virus, how do you keep your immune system up? And that's getting out, working out, eating right. And that's an important thing to make sure we're doing. Well, I don't want to keep our guest any longer because she's going to talk a lot about these things that we're discussing now. I'm very excited to have Elena Moreno with us today. She is a co-board member with me in the Bajacaliforniasur Community Alliance, and have had the pleasure of working very closely with her the last 4 months. And Elena is a 50-year resident of Bajacaliforniasur, where she is a business leader, environmentalist, and health advocate. Her business activities include real estate, viniculture, and hospitality. She serves on the board of the Cancer Registry of the state of Bajacaliforniasur, the Center for Renewable Energy and Ambient Quality, it's called CERCA, as well as commissions championing clean air, the protection of water, the biosphere reserves, and youth sports. She is a defender of the well-being and conservation of the Gulf of California and the security of the many unique kinds of flora and fauna in Bajacaliforniasur. For many years, she has promoted women's empowerment and human consciousness. She lives in Todossantos with her husband of 49 years, her 3 children, 8 grandchildren, 2 wolves, and I've had the pleasure of meeting one of those wolves. It's incredible. 2 peacocks, 20 chickens, and a stubbornly obstinate but sweet Belgian shepherd. Elena, and I think we're probably going to go long on this interview, so we're going to keep you after the break because we know we have a lot to talk about, and just we're so happy to have you on the show to talk about what's been happening and what you foresee happening in the future. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Tell us more. First of all, I met you through the El Dorado Foundation, the Chileno Bay Foundation. I met you when we first started talking about the Cancer Registry. Tell us what it is and how it works.
Well, the cancer registries have existed throughout the world for about 100 years. And in Latin America, the first one, the oldest one, was in Colombia, Cali, Colombia. And that was started about 60 years ago. And in all of Latin America, there were only 2 countries that did not have a cancer registry, and Mexico was one of them. I found that out a number of years ago when we were trying to understand the impacts of arsenic on health, because there was a lot of arsenic leaching into the water from old mine tailings in the El Triunfo area and getting into the La Paz aquifers. So we tried to understand the impacts and if that might be causing cancer, and there was no information available. And so we began, there was a couple of research doctors at CIBNOR that were working with me, and we were trying to understand where we could get information. There just wasn't any. So as I began to dig deeper and deeper, I understood that we really needed to have a cancer registry. The reason is that when you don't understand something, when you don't have information about something, you really can't combat it at all. It's very difficult to have public policies. You don't know whether you're catching cancer in stage 1 or stage 4. And the public policy is very different. If all of your cases are coming in at stage 3, it means that you're not doing anything preventative. Plus, you can't identify clusters. Like there are some areas that we've found where you're 50% more likely to have breast cancer in La Paz, or some small towns where the men have very high incidences of prostate cancer. So if you don't know that, if you don't have those statistics, you can't do anything about it. And the costs involved in treating cancer, children's cancer. Why do we have clusters in certain areas and not in others? So we began to work with other people internationally, and with the World Health Organization and the Cancer Research Institute. And in 2017, we actually got federal legislation mandating cancer registries for Mexico. And the very first cancer registry, national one, was opened last year. And our state is one of the 10 cancer registries in Mexico. And we are totally self-funded, and we do all kinds of research. Right now, we're working on a study of the economic impacts of cancer in Mexico. It's a broad study that's being done by the university in La Paz. We're impacted by all the COVID stuff because it's making it very difficult to proceed with the study, but that's in the work right now.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I first arrived in Cabo in 2008, I was with Los Cabos Children's Foundation, and I worked a lot with Amigos de los Niños, and there was no cancer treatment in Bajacaliforniasur, and so that for children, and so it's something near and dear to my heart, and I know that came about, I believe 2012. Now I had left before we put a lot of things in place, but now it's a robust program, but unfortunately there's a high incidence of cancer in children here. I remember back then it was a lot of leukemia, and some of the thoughts were the arsenic that you mentioned, and what an important thing that you're doing for the state. It's incredible.
Well, Los Cabos Children Foundation nationwide is an amazing success story. Before Los Cabos Children Foundation, all of the children were sent out of state for treatment. And that was an amazing disruption for families. It was expensive for families, and the mortality rates were not particularly high. And in the period of time that Los Cabos Children Foundation has been involved, they have managed to create a pediatric cancer center in La Paz. They have gotten funding now for every child that gets cancer in our state. Up to 20 years old, their costs are absorbed. And we now have cancer physicians. We have pediatric nurses also that specialize in oncology. We actually have certification for giving pediatric chemotherapy. And none of those things existed, and they all exist now because of Los Cabos Children Foundation.
Yeah, totally. And just want to say, this is a precursor of what we're going to talk about with the Bajacaliforniasur Community Alliance, but one of the things that brought all the foundations together, including Los Cabos Children's Foundation and Teleton, was a bus that we purchased all together, all the foundations, and is taking the children, because another disruption is having to go up to La Paz, because there's no cancer treatment in Cabos for children. It's in La Paz. So the children need to get up there, and we've had children drop out of cancer treatment because they did not have transportation, or they had to take Aguila or some other public transportation, and now they have a bus that they can take, and that's also thanks in large part to Los Cabos Children's Foundation. Casa Hogar, who's coming on next, Jason also was involved in that. Amigos de los Niños. There's many. I could go on and on and on, but it was really the precursor to what happened with the Bajacaliforniasur Community Alliance. Because collaboration is so important right now. And talk to us a little bit about that, Elena. Like, what the cancer registry? How did that start and become part of? I mean, I know the story, but why don't you tell us of what happened?
You're talking about how did it become part of the Alliance?
Yes, correct. How did this all start?
Well, I called up Marisa Camella, and I said, so what about COVID? What are we going to do? And she said, I don't know. And then we called up Ann McEnany from International Community Foundation, and we said, what is your experience? Because we were behind the US in cases. So San Diego was already going through the initiation of COVID well before we did. And so we called Ann and we talked to her, and we talked about what was happening at the border, et cetera, et cetera. And then we called Lucia Frausto from Como Vamos La Paz. And we all decided, well, let's take a survey of the medical institutions and see what we can do. And from that point, we managed to get a grant of about $65,000. And then we called you and we said, come on, Corey, we need your help. And Felipe Fernandez entered, and it began to grow. And we now have over 208 members of our alliance, between NGOs, civil associations, business people, empresarios, and the 3 levels of government and the military. It's an amazing alliance of people all coming together and all working very well and very hard. We started out from a medical perspective, trying to protect all of the healthcare workers and the first responders, make sure that they had PPEs, which in the beginning was extraordinarily difficult because the whole world was competing for them. Mm-hmm. But we managed to get them, and we paid dearly for it, but we had funding. And then we realized that our big problem was going to be food security, as I don't know what percentage of the population was suddenly without employment. So our numbers at this point is, I don't know the exact number, but I think we're probably up to 150,000 food packages distributed throughout.
That's about 160,000.
And the final numbers, Corey, at this point, it's well over 5 million that we've raised. Mm-hmm. And
almost 5.3 million. It's amazing effort. Amazing.
Yeah. And the incredible thing is, all of this has gone to the people. Mm-hmm. And what's extraordinary also is the level of collaboration. Like business owners in Cabo, people that had restaurants would take pizzas and deliver food to the volunteers that were delivering dispensas. They would provide trucks, they would provide chauffeurs, they would provide warehouse space. I mean, everybody. Alyssa just 2 weeks ago put a truck at our disposition to take all kinds of medical supplies north to Vizcaíno Valley for the farm workers. And it's been remarkable, really, really remarkable. And the military, I can't say enough about the Marines and the Army. They have, every day when we go out with our volunteers to distribute food, they put the trucks, the gas, they give us a whole group of service members who help with the deliveries and offer guidance and protection for everybody. And it's been a remarkable effort, really remarkable.
Yeah, the military, to me, I was privileged to be in a thank you pizza with some of the volunteers, and everyone spoke. And the head of the National Guard got up and spoke, and the head of the Army got up and spoke. And it was incredible what they were saying. You felt very well protected, and they were so passionate about helping the people of Mexico. And we're so happy to be here. They loved working with all the people, the volunteers that have come out and done this. It's a remarkable effort that everyone in Los Cabos should be proud of. And there's people talking about it all over Mexico, because nothing like this has ever happened before. And right. Go ahead, Elena.
You know, last week, the New York Times came out with an article about the number of healthcare workers who have died in Mexico because they haven't had the PPEs, they haven't had the protective gear. And I think, according to the Times article, Mexico leads the world. And so I thought, wow, I need to see what our statistics are. And as of yesterday, we've only had 12 healthcare workers die. That's incredible, really, really amazing. And that includes all medical staff and physicians. And when people have gotten COVID, there have been 1,139 cases of COVID among medical workers. And when they get it, the cases are usually much less severe because they're more protected and they're not as exposed to the high concentrations of the virus, which create the huge clouds, and the immune system just can't combat it. So we're very lucky, and I feel like the Alliance did an awful lot to make sure that every single healthcare worker in our state that needed protection got it. We've never denied a single institution's request, and we have given it to every single hospital, clinic, Red Cross, even sanitation workers. I mean, the garbage still has to be collected. Policemen still have to go out. Firemen still have to respond. And we've provided gear for them as well.
Yeah, and just to mention also the food distribution, we talked about the 160,000 food baskets, and that's largely a lot thanks to Como Vamos La Paz and Lucia Faust, and just the incredible effort and that they put into that. That has also kept the community safe in a huge way. And that food distribution is still happening. It's happening on a lesser scale, but it's still definitely happening. And Claudia, I promise I'm going to let you give some questions here. I get so excited. You got to push me out of the way.
I really want to say one thing about what you're just talking about, the food distribution. When we were first trying to understand what the needs were, we looked to what happened after Odile, and we looked to the level of looting that took place, especially in Cabo right afterwards. And we decided that we had to do things to make sure that people felt secure and hopeful. And having food security is a big part of that. And in many parts of Mexico, the narcos have taken advantage of the situation and trying to create a friendlier environment for them by providing food and food packages to the population. We're the only state that has not had that happen. And that's because we've done it. And the whole community has come together and given hope to everybody and made sure that people are taken care of.
Yeah, it's great. People in all the developments, and people have sent money from the States where they've just been and really opening up their hearts. Cabo's part of what they love, and it's been amazing the support that has happened.
Yeah.
The thing, what do you see as the future of the Alliance, Elena? What do you see us going forward? I know we're talking about that on our board calls, but where do you see this going? We have a couple minutes and we're going to go to a break, but if you can answer that, and we'll have you come back after the break as well. Okay.
I think that the basic function of the Alliance is to create collaboration and collaboration over common issues. So right now we're looking at a big issue for our whole state, and that's energy. Mm-hmm. And having enough energy with consistency and clean energy, and at affordable prices. We have some of the highest energy costs in the nation, and it's really hampering the competitive position of many of our businesses. It's impairing a lot of families who have to decide to feed the electric company before they feed their kids. And then the worst thing of all is the impact of the contamination in La Paz. So I think that it's really important for the Alliance to pull people together on this issue. It is a statewide issue, and it impacts every single family and every single business. So I believe that will be our next big issue to try and tackle.
That's great. Claudia, any questions before we go to break?
Let's go to break.
I'm going to apologize to you right now. I took the whole interview, but we're going to have some bonus material at the break for Facebook Live, and we will be back. Cabomil News and Community Update in just a few minutes. Welcome back to Cabomil News and Community Update in English. We are with Elena Moreno. We have Jason Stirrup from Casa Hogar coming up soon on the show. If you see him on Facebook Live, he's already here, so he's already on our panel. But we're finishing up with Elena. And Elena, we talked about something when we first started, when you came on the show today, before we recorded, and it's about your husband and son are both Lakota chiefs. And we were talking about just maybe some of the spiritual aspects of COVID and some of the things that you see in the future, and just talk about that a little bit, because you're going to say it a lot better than I'm saying it right now.
Well, you know, I often am asked about COVID. What does it mean? where is it taking us into the future? And I think that COVID is happening to all of humanity. It's happening to the entire planet. It's not just Mexico or the United States or cabosanlucas. It's happening to everybody, and there's nobody that has been impacted by it. And nature in general, the whole planet is impacted, and in some cases in very positive ways, because human beings are being restrained right now. The Navajo Nation, the Diné people, are a fascinating culture in that they have, as do many other Native American cultures, they follow what's called the beauty way. And this is a philosophy of balance. It's called walking in beauty. And what that means is being as unobtrusive in the world as possible. But it also means maintaining a balance. So when a child falls and breaks his arm in the community, it's a sign that something's out of balance. And the grandmothers would get together and they would look at the family, and they would look at the whole community and try to understand where were they falling down. If a couple got a divorce or separated or they were arguing too much, the whole community would look and try and understand what had brought it out of balance. But then also when natural disasters took place, it meant that their world at large was out of balance. And so they would try and understand what they could do, how they could behave in a way to bring things back into beauty, into that balanced perspective. And I think that COVID is an amazing sign that we have lost our beauty, fallen out of that harmony, that place of right living. And I think that we're identifying the fact that our immune systems are vulnerable. We're identifying the fact that we are so interconnected, and yet at the same time, we don't seem to have the ability to communicate. We're seeing new ways of living. We're questioning actions, way of life. We're questioning diet. And I think this is all good. I think that, so often you have a hurricane or you have an earthquake or you have a fire and nobody pays attention. They're acts of God. And yet the Diné people would look at it and say, no, these are reflections. They're reflections of what's happening in us. And because we are not living on the planet, we are part of the planet. And so if we're sick, if we're have a virus, it means that the planet has that virus. And if we're creating contamination or climate change or what have you, it means that the whole planet is getting sick. So we have to do things to bring, first of all, ourselves back into balance, but then we have to learn how to walk in beauty, how to live in a better way. And I think that COVID is a wonderful opportunity. It has forced us to stop. It has forced us to think. It has forced us to question and wonder about ourselves and about the whole world. And I think that that's an important thing. We are at pause, and it's time to reflect on who we are. And I also believe that in the power of one. And the Diné people believe in that as well, in that you do have the ability to impact everyone, everything, but the change has to come from you, within you. And the other thing that I think is really important is understanding the greeting, which is all my relations, Itakiasan. And this is true in the Lakota Nation, it's true in most nations, they talk about, and even the Mayans, I am, you are me, in La Kesha Lakan, it talks about the fact that we are all related. We are all the planet. We are all the people. There is no division between us. And we have to go back to realizing that We are part of the natural world. We're the birds, we're the ocean, we're the air, everything. And when we talk about climate change, we tend to talk about it as other than me. It's something that's happening outside of me, but the truth is it's happening within us. And I think that if COVID gives us the opportunity to reflect on all of those things and make the changes, personal changes that we need to make, it will begin to change our whole world. And then COVID will have had an important role.
No, it's the introspection that it's caused, and just my friends and family, and many people have already started to change their lives. And all the things you're talking about, it's from the inside, and then we're going to see will change on the outside. I know we could keep talking all day, and we're going to have you back, and it's very important to talk about. We didn't really hit on what's happening in the energy sector in Bajacaliforniasur, but that is something that is interconnected and affecting all of us, and it's something that must get addressed in the near future. And we'll have you back to talk about that. And just thank you so much for being on the show today. What a great message, what an inspirational message. And I think we're going to get a lot of great comments from this show. A lot of great thoughts about what just happened. So we really appreciate you being with us.
Claudia and Corey, I really appreciate what you're doing, and anything that we can all do to create unity and collaboration. That's it. That's what it's all about. We're one big family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Jason.
Have a lovely weekend.
Bye, Elena.
Bye-bye.
So Claudia, I'm gonna let you talk to Jason.
No. You're talking to Jason. This is all you, Corey.
Well, at least anyway. Just, what a great show, and we're so excited to have Jason Stirrup with us as well. Someone that is definitely making a change in the community, has been doing so for quite some time. He's the executive director of Casa Hogar, and we actually had the opportunity to work with them on a certain program, which we'll talk about in a minute. But just really great to have you here, Jason, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Corey, and hello, Claudia. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good to see both of you.
So Jason, tell us a little bit, first of all, where you're from. And I know your wife is also in the nonprofit community here, so it's a whole family affair. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your life? And I know you got some beautiful kids. I see you guys out hiking sometimes. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born in Montreal, and we moved to Toronto when I was just a little boy. So I grew up as the only English kid in a French family, which was unique. And when I was 20 years old, my wife, Vanessa, who's a native of Cabosanlucas, she was an exchange student in Toronto, and I met her on a Thursday night at a pub. And now I've got 2 Mexican kids.
And you live in Cabosanlucas.
And I live in Cabosanlucas, and every once in a while I get to speak English, which is nice.
No, it's great. It's great. So tell us about Casa Hogar. How many kids are there, and just a little bit about the history.
So Casa Hogar has been operating now for 12 years, and the legal term is Social Assistance Center. I like the term children's home. I think it's a lot warmer. So these are cases of kids that have had one of their basic rights violated along the way. Normally abuse, neglect, or abandonment. Oftentimes it's a combination of several violations of basic rights. So oftentimes I'm asked, how do the children arrive to your facility? And basically what happens is a neighbor, a family member, a teacher, or the child themselves will reach out to the authorities and report a situation that is incorrect, a violation of rights. And then those legal authorities will reach out to the local DEEF offices. And then assuming that they deem it appropriate for the child to be placed into a center like ours, they will call us and see if we have space available. Currently we have 30 girls and boys and teens. The youngest is 4 years old. The eldest is 17. And we have one young man that's living in our transition house. He's 20 years old and he works full time at one of the local resorts. He's a special needs young man, and we're very, very proud of his semi-independent state. So he's the first of what we presume will be many teens that transition through that housing program, which is on site.
That's incredible. Claudia, have you been out to Casa Hogar?
Yes, many years ago, there was a scorpion infestation, and I was with Club Regina, and we helped kind of like the first refurbishing and adaptation of Casa Hogar, and the work that you do, because it always sounds, I'm always impressed with people who work in these environments, because you make it sound so easy. But the way that you improve the lives of so many children is incredible. It's incredible, because they come from environments where our concept of normal doesn't exist. They cannot even fathom that. How do you help them get into normal, into a point where a young man can work for a resort and be in a transition home environment?
It's a good question. And it's not a simple answer. It's a multifaceted approach that we take. And you know, what is normal? Anybody that's married understands that their perception of normal is different from their spouse's perception of normal. So even just starting there, but there are some fundamental pillars that we really address. The first is reinstating the basic rights. So that is the right to live free of abuse and violence, the right to medical access, the right to education, and there's several others. The right to identity. Sometimes children will arrive here and they have not been registered with the federal government. So in the eyes of the government, they don't exist. So each case is different. That's one of the pillars, the reinstating the basic rights. And then there's some others that sound very simple, but they're quite profound. One of those is being accepted, a sense of acceptance. Another is forming part of a community. And that's a huge element of our success. And that not only is driven by the staff members, but also by the other residents. And I think the other residents may have more to do with the sense of community than the staff members themselves. So, and of course, acceptance and community go hand in hand. I'm often asked if we have a psychologist, or if our kids have the opportunity to receive therapy. And the answer is yes, we do have a full-time psychologist. One is probably not enough. We do work with external psychologists for specific situations that not. But what I've gathered over the years is that psychology is a small slice of the solution. And I think the general public got psychology as being a very, very big, important part of it, but would put acceptance, community, love, safety, trust way before psychology. Corey, you did also mention my wife, and I neglected to touch on her, and I will very quickly. So Vanessa, born and raised here in cabosanlucas, she worked for a period of time as a program developer with Los Cabos Children's Foundation. Decided to dedicate a year to our kids. We have 2 boys, and in January she was brought on board with the Green Scholarship Program in the director role. So yeah, we didn't plan on being in this sector. It just kind of fell into it.
It kind of happened, and we're very grateful that it did, because both of you are making huge differences in the community, and we're so lucky that you guys are in this sector. I think the whole community is. If you've been out to Casa Hogar, you can see Jason jumping right in the middle. He is passionate about what he does. And how big's your, I mean, and you're running a staff of how many people? There's a lot of people that work for you.
Yeah, and I use the term kid count, which might not sound very the right, but the number of residents has reduced over the past 5 weeks, and we're probably going to keep things on the lower end to finish the year, just economically speaking. Right now we've got 30 full-time staff members, and it sounds like a lot. However, by law, we are required to have one caregiver for every eight residents, and that's around the clock.
Wow.
And then apart from that, we have staff in the kitchen. We have 2 drivers, maintenance man, psychologist, nurse, secretary, operations director, who has, she came on board this year in January. So my hair is starting to grow back slowly, which has been fantastic. And myself. So we've got a great team in place.
Hey Jason, we're gonna take a little bit of a break. We're gonna keep you on the Facebook Live. We'll get some material for the folks that are watching Facebook Live, and we'll bring you back for a little bit, and then we need to wrap up the show. But let's go ahead and take a break. We'll be right back with Cabomil News and Community Update.
Thank you.
In 3, 2.
Welcome back to Cabomil News and Community Update. We are with Jason Stirrup of Casa Hogar. And Jason, just real quick, because we only have about a minute left, but we have to tell everyone, go to Facebook Live or YouTube and watch this, because we spent about the last, half hour?
Yeah, something like that. But so interesting.
Talking about Waking the Tiger, which is a book we recommend, and this program that you have at Casa Hogar of Somatic Experiencing. Any last thoughts that you have for us? We're going to have your information on Facebook so people can check it out, your website, email, how to get a hold of you. What else? What else can you say? You have about 30 seconds. Tell us something else here.
Well, I want to address a little bit more about that trauma topic. The difference with this particular approach, it's a bottom-up approach rather than top-down. It's getting that trauma out of your subconscious, getting that built-up, unresolved traumatic energy out of your body so that you don't have the symptoms. So whether you got a little bit of symptoms or a whole lot, it's worth the read. And I hope you'll take the time to read Waking the Tiger, Healing Trauma.
By Peter Levine, and you recommend the audiobook. Jason, thank you so much for being here. Remember, go to Facebook Live. You can see much more about this interview with Jason. Claudia, what an extraordinary show today.
Amazing.
So with Elena and Jason. Can you give us a summary in Spanish?
El día de hoy tuvimos la presencia de Elena Moreno del Registro de Cáncer de Baja California Sur. Nos habló acerca del trabajo que realiza el Registro de Cáncer y el trabajo que se ha realizado con la Alianza Comunitaria de Baja California Sur. Y también tuvimos la presencia de Jason Stirrup de Casa Hogar, donde además de ofrecer a hogar, un espacio para menores en condiciones vulnerables, también están desarrollando una nueva terapia, un nuevo tratamiento que es terapia somática, y es algo que no se está haciendo en ningún otro lado. Somos precursores aquí en Los Cabos a través de Casa Hogar y de una donación, un apoyo que se realiza por parte de Chileno y El Dorado Foundation. Y tenemos mucho material extra en Facebook Live. Por favor, vayan a esa página, Cabomil News. Cabomil News, 3 palabras.
And tell us about the surfing.
The surfing pastor. So level 4 churches are open, but if you are in high-risk groups, the recommendation is not to go to enclosed service. Surfing Pastor, great option, non-denominational service every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. It has moved. It is now at Chileno Beach. And who is invited? Everybody. The service is non-denominational, so it's for everyone, whether you're Catholic, Christian, Methodist, Jewish, whatever, you will be there. You will enjoy it, and you will find something that resonates within you. I love this. The rules: no shoes required. Crying babies and four-legged children are invited. It is amazing. It takes about 25 minutes. The service is about 25 minutes. Take anything that will make you more comfortable: a beach chair, towel, umbrella, coffee, and yes, you can slurp your coffee as the service is happening. So it's a wonderful opportunity to just connect with the higher power around us and enjoy our community. Sunday, 10:30 a.m. at Chileno Beach.
I have to say, I feel like we've connected with the higher power on today's show. And
I think so.
Incredible opportunity to have Moreno, Jason Stirrup, and just some of the conversation that we've had. Please go to Facebook Live and YouTube. You will see a lot of extra bonus material. Next week, Claudia, I'm still working on confirming we have the founder of Up With People with us, 95 years young. And if any of you in Mexico know, it's Viva la Gente, and we'll probably have some music from Viva la Gente. We have one of the musical, not founders, but one of the directors, incredible musician. So we're working on that. It may not happen next week, maybe the following week, but we're very excited. We have other leaders lined up. So stay tuned on Cabomil News on Facebook or at 6 p.m. on Sunday evenings. Everyone have a great week. Stay safe out there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.